Why couldn't Sauron sense Bilbo? Deep within the suffocating darkness of Mirkwood, Bilbo Baggins slipped a plain golden ring onto his finger and vanished, invisible to every dark power stirring in Middle-earth at that moment. Yet years later, when his younger cousin Frodo did the very same thing, the Dark Lord's terrible gaze snapped toward him like a blade finding its mark. Why? Why did Sauron not know when Bilbo wore the One Ring, especially in the very forest Sauron called home? Today on the Elven Perspective, we follow the evidence from the Misty Mountains to the seat of seeing on Ammon Hen and uncover the truth about how Sauron's awareness works. To answer this, we must first separate the films from the books. In Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring, Sauron speaks in his ominous rasp when Frodo slips on the ring in the prancing pony. "I see you." The eye fixes upon him. The Nazgul screech and change direction. The ring, it seems, is a homing signal. That works on screen, but it is not what Tolkien wrote. In the book, Frodo puts on the ring and nothing dramatic occurs. The Black Riders track the hobbits to Bree through mundane means. Spies like the treacherous Bill Ferny, and a more generalized instinctive pull we will return to shortly. Frodo disappeared. People noticed. The Nazgul closed in. Placing the One Ring on one's finger does not draw the eye of Sauron. There is no alarm sounding in Barad-dûr. If the ring were a homing beacon, Bilbo's journey through Wilderland would have been a very short and very fatal mistake. Bilbo uses the ring a great many times. He puts it on beneath the Misty Mountains to escape Gollum and the orcs, just as Gollum himself had done countless times over centuries. He uses it to move unseen among the dwarves in Mirkwood, to evade the great spiders of that forest, and within the halls of Thranduil to help the dwarves escape captivity. At Erebor, he wears it to speak with Smaug, to slip away bearing the Arkenstone, and to return once more. He uses it during the Battle of the Five Armies, and later in the Shire any number of times, for reasons as small as avoiding the Sackville Bagginses, until the ring's influence culminates in his grand vanishing at his 11th birthday party. A dozen instances at least, and far more in all likelihood. Through all of it, Sauron has no idea. His great breakthrough in locating the ring is not some distant sensing of it being worn. It is the capture and interrogation of Gollum. That single fact tells us everything. Sauron cannot feel the ring being worn. Consider also how incriminating the circumstances were. Dol Guldur, Sauron's fortress in southern Mirkwood, stood nearby. He was in the same forest, occupied being driven out by the White Council, but that is beside the point. The ring did not alert him. Gollum wore it hundreds of times beneath the Misty Mountains, and Sauron never knew. Bilbo wore it across Wilderland and back, and Sauron never knew. The ring shaped them, extended their lives, but it gave no signal. So why does Frodo attract Sauron's attention at Ammon Hen? The answer is precise. When Boromir attempts to take the ring from Frodo, Frodo slips it on and flees to the summit of Ammon Hen, where he finds an ancient stone chair, the seat of seeing, an artifact from the height of Gondor's power, designed to extend its occupant's sight across vast stretches of Middle-earth. Frodo takes the seat, surveys the world, and then, fatally, turns his gaze toward Mordor. He is still wearing the ring. What follows is immediate. He felt the eye. There was an eye in the dark tower that did not sleep, and it became aware of his gaze. A fierce and eager will leaped toward him, searching. It touched Ammon Hen. It glanced across Tol Brandir. Frodo threw himself from the seat, his own voice betraying him. "Never, never! I come to you." He was on the edge of surrender. Then, from some other point of power, a second voice broke through. "Take it off. Take it off, fool. Take off the ring." He did. The contact was severed. Almost certainly Gandalf the White, newly returned and acting from afar. This was only the fourth occasion Frodo had worn the ring. So why did Sauron sense him then? Because it was the combination of wearing the ring and gazing at Barad-dûr through a magical instrument of sight that tore the veil open, a two-way channel the ring and the seat created together. Tolkien's magic system is famously soft, so we cannot know the precise mechanics of how that connection formed. What we do know is this: wearing the ring alone never did it. There is one other moment when Sauron becomes aware of the ring. The cracks of doom within Samath Naur, at the summit of Orodruin. We are given a vital clue earlier in the journey. When Samwise Gamgee carries the ring in Mordor and debates whether to use it, he instinctively recoils. He thinks, "He would spot me and cow me before I could so much as shout out. He would find me quickly if I put on the ring here, in Mordor." Sam understands that wearing the ring within Sauron's own realm is a different matter entirely. The ring was forged there, and Sauron's awareness permeates its very rock and ash. And so when Frodo claims the ring at the fire in Samath Naur, the innermost sanctum of his realm, the tower trembled from its foundations to its topmost crown. The Dark Lord became suddenly, terrifyingly aware. Every scheme of his enemies was laid bare. His wrath blazed, but his fear rose higher still, for he understood what now hung upon that thread. Unless you stand in Sauron's own realm, or gaze upon his stronghold through an instrument of magical sight while wearing the ring remains silent. That is the rule. There is, however, one nuance honest law demands we acknowledge. While the ring is not a homing beacon, there appears to be a faint, generalized pull, a vague gravity drawing certain beings toward it over time and distance. Kamul the Easterling, second of the Nazgul, tracked the ring all the way to Bagshot Row in Hobbiton, within earshot of Frodo, before being sent away by Gaffer Gamgee. He retreated to the tree line, unable to move confidently in daylight. He knew roughly where the ring was, but not precisely enough to act. Gollum, likewise, was drawn to it by more than tracking skill. The ring called to what was most broken in him. Which raises one final question. When Sauron retreated to Dol Guldur in the early Third Age, why that location? There were safer, more hidden places. Why the former capital of the Woodland Realm, a fortress on the western bank of the Anduin, across the river from where the One Ring lay cold and silent at the bottom of the Gladden Fields? Perhaps the diminished Dark Lord felt the faintest tug, a ghost of connection. Tolkien does not say. But the question is worth sitting with. Why could Sauron not sense Bilbo wearing the ring? Because that is not how the ring works. Those bound to it may feel a vague pull across great distances. If it is worn within Sauron's own realm, or its wearer gazes upon Mordor through a place of magical sight, the eye will find them. But in the ordinary course of events, in the Misty Mountains, in Mirkwood, in the Shire, no, the ring is silent. This is the hinge upon which the entire fate of the Third Age turns. Sauron does not know that Frodo and Samwise are crossing into Mordor. He believes Aragorn holds the ring and will march upon the Black Gate. That miscalculation, born of his own arrogance, costs him everything. He looks outward for a conqueror, while destruction walks in through the back door. The quest would have ended before it began, if the ring had blazed like a beacon. Silent when Bilbo took it beneath the Misty Mountains. Silent through Mirkwood. Silent for 60 years in the Shire. And that silence saved the world. Do you believe Sauron felt the pull of the ring when he chose Dol Guldur? It is one of those questions Tolkien left deliberately unanswered. I would very much like to hear your thoughts in the comments. To support the Elven Perspective, find us on Patreon. Thank you for wandering into the deep lore with us today. Until next time, Namaria.